Hello, happy first Monday of March. I just wanted to first of all say thank you to those people that stopped by and gave Dr. Trober and I feedback while we were in buildings in the month of February and January. This is a direct result of that feedback, and we wanted to provide you a high-level overview of our teaching and learning priorities for the school district over the next few years. This has been aligned to our strategic plan, what you'll see today, and really has a 3 to 5 year mindset in terms of planning, focused on research best practices, sustainable systems, and of course, like I mentioned, feedback from multiple stakeholder groups, including staff. This was our top 5 district-wide topics that we heard in all of the buildings. Number 1, counseling support. More is needed to address the severe needs of students behaviorally, emotionally, mentally, and socially. I would add academically to that as well, but specifically to those 4 areas. We also heard that a common curriculum is needed across all grade levels and subject areas. Onboarding new teachers came up in every building in terms of instruction, curriculum, assessment, and professional development support. More targeted professional development was also brought up, but that was really more specific to different subject areas, maybe non-core areas, but also specific to mid-year hires and supporting students learning to read. And we also looked at district team meetings and structure was one of the top 5, really just talking about more time for horizontal and vertical time to meet to discuss curriculum across the district and other subject areas, but curriculum was the number 1 area. So with that, I want to just give a quick highlight in an overview of really what we mean when we say curriculum, instruction, professional development, technology. Curriculum is really the essential for teaching and learning. So this is really providing every student an academic, rigorous experience. What we mean by instruction is really just the purposeful direction of the learning process. And in professional development, these are really just the tools and resources needed to improve teacher quality and effectiveness. Technology is the tools that teachers use to convey the lesson to students or interact with them. And assessment, when we mean that, there is evaluating, measuring, and documenting the academic readiness or learning progression of students. And when we talk about a framework for instruction to clarify tier 1, 2, and 3, when those are utilized here and in the future, we are meaning tier 1 resources as board approved, used to facilitate the instructional process. Tier 2 is just additional instruction for those students that need further practice on a skill or standard. And tier 3 is still another time for students who need additional instruction on a further skill or standard. So to frame this a little bit, we wanted to provide an overview of really all the work that we're going to be talking about. And that is the base there at the bottom you see is really around positive culture and climate. So we can't have all these other things without that across the district. We also want to make sure that everything that's in here, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, we have a process for evaluating, assessing, planning, implementing, and monitoring in a continuous cycle, which really does mirror the state's Michigan's continuous improvement process around school improvement. So with that framework, we'd like to share just a few of the initiatives and priorities that we see in the next 3 to 5 years. As you know, we will be focusing on capturing kids' hearts as district-wide professional development starting this summer. More information will be coming out about that as the years go on, but we will be making this be a part of new teacher, new staff onboarding in the future. In the areas of curriculum, our immediate focus areas are in 9-12 ELA, science, and social studies. We've already had a reproductive health review committee going this past winter, and that team will be making a recommendation to our school board in March on tweaks to that curriculum. We will also be focusing on pre-K 12 whole child education. And as we're doing that, we are in the middle of revising the curriculum review cycle based on the feedback, and we'll be sharing that more in an upcoming Candid Corner. Yes, those are also coming back here on a monthly basis. In terms of curriculum maps, our focus areas immediately will be to address priority standards and scope assessment plans for the 4 core areas. And then following that, we'll be looking at more vertical to articulation in the same areas with non-core areas K-12. In the areas of instruction, we'll be looking at just really focusing on what are the non-negotiables around instruction and how do we make that more consistent across the district. Look at common planning time at the high school, structure for grade level and department meetings, a little more consistency with that across the board. Looking at targeted programming to support students' learning, so more alignment around the multi-tiered systems of support for students. And K-8 math intervention blocks will be established. So again, immediate focus areas under instruction. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Josh to talk about assessment.
So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into assessments. And know that as we say this, what we are really talking about is ways to measure, of course, student learning for the purposes of incorporating what they might need to understand the content in the best possible way. That really comes through in the formative or the curriculum-based measures that we have in place, which ultimately, for the most part, are going to be unit assessments. That's where we've really been focusing on our Tier 1 instruction and our Tier 1 resources, going back a couple of years at the elementary level, but then scaling that up, of course, to the intermediate recently in middle schools. And then also this past year with the high school and continuing on with the high school Tier 1 resources and the focus there. All in the name of making sure we have good Tier 1 resources so that we can assess, understand our students, and potentially remediate or enrich their learnings more specifically. So that also means when we talk about assessments that we have a clear, coherent plan in place, pre-K through 12. You know that you have various assessments that you might put in place. Some of them are officially adopted, some of them may not be, but we really want to make sure we have an adopted, coherent model, utilizing not only our curriculum-based measures, but then also our diagnostics and our universal screening. You have heard about most likely or know about Cadence, but then NWEA, and even the PSAT, a model for helping to incorporate PSAT in the 7th grade, which I'll talk about in a second, but then also having a program in place that puts PSAT-like questions in front of our students multiple times in the course of a year, so it can continue to engage our students in a way that they will see test questions on the SAT or PSAT at a different time of the year, essentially helping to prepare them. And here, of course, that is where it's talking, this particular slide's talking about PSAT in 7th grade coming on board in spring of 2023. But it's not only about adding the assessment, but then putting in place a warehouse and benchmarking program in place for our 7th through 11th grades. Again, with the idea of identifying what our students understand with various types of questions they might see on those summative assessments, and analyzing it for the purpose of filling in gaps wherever they might exist. At the bottom there, you see PLC, a reference to PLCs. Some of you may in fact be have an established formal PLC model in place, realizing that others don't. We really want to make sure we have vertical articulation when it comes to PLCs and common language. So we will ultimately, going on to professional development, be subscribing to PLCs from a formal sense in a couple of years. We are getting ready for that in this upcoming year, but that won't be our focus. Our focus will be, of course, on continuing to upgrade our Tier 1 resources with our assessment package as we can. So when we get to PLCs from a formal sense, undertaking that as a full system, pre-K through 12 system, that we know what we have in our hands when it comes to PLCs and having those questions about who are our learners, what do they understand, what don't they understand, in the name of making sure that we of course prepare them for whatever they might need in that current grade level or in the time ahead. Capturing Kids' Hearts, of course, is coming up this summer. If you have not signed up yet, make sure that you do that. That is our really big focus area for this coming year, and frankly, for the time ahead, because if we don't have that that heart in place about who we are from a cultural and climate perspective, that ultimately is going to hurt us in many, many other ways as a district. We are designing a mentor program, basically a way to help continue to pour into who our educators are, so that we understand what our values are, shared values are, and can help all of those who might come on board in the fall or at other times of the year, help them understand who we are and can take on our values and teach our values.
Thank you, Josh. And finally, technology. Our immediate focus areas for technology are a system security audit and work on system security. A wireless upgrade. We're going to be expanding our implementation of Chromebooks into young 5s. And we will be moving our current 6th grade Chromebooks from Craft to Duncan Lake. I know our tech department will be working on the collection and distribution process, also with building office and media center staff on how to do that, on how to improve our systems there around technology. So what's next? Well, we want to make sure that we have an opportunity for you to ask questions. So your principal will be sending out a Padlet link, and you can certainly give feedback in any area, but these are the focus areas that we have around this presentation. So when you click on the Padlet link, you can literally just click on any one area. If you have an area curriculum or question, you can type that into here, and we will be responding to questions. We will also use those as a framework for our next time that we get together with you, which will be at our Candid Corner recordings. They will be monthly. We will be available for questions in those at those times, and those will be yet to be determined. And our focus in April will be on special education and specifically questions that you pose in the Padlet from the March staff meetings. So we look forward to hearing from you, and want to let you know that if you cannot make the specific times, we have those recordings available on our staff intranet in the curriculum section under Candid Corner. So greatly appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for all that you do, for your dedication to our students, to our school district, for just showing up. We appreciate you very much, and look forward to connecting with you and hearing your questions. And we'll see you in April. Have a great rest of the month.